Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I always appreciate your presence. So I have several news updates to share with you for today, February 1st, 2023. So the updates on a Orthodox Church crisis. I have the Prime Minister statement to read for you. So he ended his silence, and his statement aggravated the, the Orthodox community, and now they demonstrated massively at Washington D.C. against the Prime Minister's speech and against the splitter group, the breakaway, the synods. So I have a short video on that one. So these are Orthodox believers or followers. They are now well organized to defend the establishment. So they call on followers, businessmen, and others to support the cause, to protect the status quo, and to denounce the ongoing they call interference, government interference in the church's business. So they are showing their power to defend the status quo, no change into the teaching. They are defending the status quo. They are saying a lot of things. So let me read what the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said on the crisis. Then I will play the video of the protesters in Washington, D.C. In front of State Department. And these protesters promised to continue their fight in defending the Orthodox status quo. And also they calling on all followers on the coming Sunday all over the world to come out and support their cause. Here we go. This is from Addis Standard. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed weighs in with call for dialogue in the deepening crisis within Orthodox Church as accusation of state interference grow wider. So there's accusation. Government is doing this, government is supporting the breakaway synods. So many accusations. Addressing cabinet members who were convened for a 6-month performance evaluation of government ministries, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed broke his silence with a remark on the ongoing controversy within the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, EOTS, and called on leaders of the church to resolve their differences through dialogue and discussion. He also defended his government's track record of helping the church in the face of growing criticism, including by the Izema party of roles being played by the ruling party to divide the church by helping the breakaway archbishops. So this is accusation by political party like Izema and others, plus all the media supporting the status quo. The Prime Minister's remark came amid growing criticism that his government is siding with the breakaway archbishops and security forces are detaining and pressuring religious leaders who are against the breakaway archbishops. In a video posted to his Facebook page on Tuesday, Prime Minister Abiy said that religious institutions should cleanse their insides from politics, thievery, and racism, which he said were contrary to the principles and values of religious. But the trend has been repeatedly witnessed in the Ethiopian case, he said, leaving a trail of breaking up history, hindering development, and damaging social coexistence. Prime Minister Abiy compared his government with the governments of the past, specifically the Derg, which he said had killed, and the EPRDF, which he said had expelled with a letter the respective patriarch of the church. He credited the incumbent Prosperity Party-led government of his one that has supported the church unlike the previous regimes by mentioning the involvement of the government in bringing the late Abuna Markorios, the fourth patriarch of the church, after 27 years in exile. The patriarch was deposed during the early days of the EPRDF government in what is widely believed by the faithful to be a politically motivated decision, leading to the exile of the late Abno Markorios, who had established a separate synod in the US, effectively splitting the church until the exiled synod was reunited after the late Abno Markorios and his synod members arrived in Addis Ababa on 1st August 2018. In his remark yesterday, the Prime Minister credited his government as having accomplished. What we did was to try and reconcile and unite the two, he said, adding that this was one of the fundamental differences of his government with the governments of the past. This is not an ordinary matter. Further, refuting growing claims that his government was playing a role in the current controversy between the two groups of the church, and went on calculating the number of buildings and size of land his government made available to the church. He said that his government has facilitated the return of two buildings which were confiscated by previous regimes to the church, and granted the size of 1,045,000 square meter land in the capital Addis Ababa only in the last 4 years alone, 3 times more than his government granted to other major religious institutions, including Islam, Catholic, and evangelical denominators combined, which he said was about 350,000 square meter land. While defending his government against the accusations, Prime Minister Abiy also admitted that the government has sent mediators to advise the leaders of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church to calmly discuss and resolve the issues, which he said was rejected. He reflected on the complaints from the breakaway archbishops of long-standing discrimination on appointments of bishops and the problems in relation to getting religious service in one's own language as a major cause of the ongoing disagreements. The Prime Minister said his government cannot stop the demands of the people from getting answered. So these demonstrators and the establishment is also against this comment. Let's say if the church wants to preach in one's native language, it's the decision of the church, that's the say. So it may not be possible to appoint 100 bishops overnight for Oromia, but over a longer period and by listening to the people's demand, it is possible to resolve the issue so that such issues of language, race, politics, etc. cannot distract a big institution like this, he said. It is possible to resolve it without suppressing people's right and the demand to use one's own language, he added, noting that the government cannot ignore questions being raised in Oromia and the southern regions, why they cannot be ministered with their own language like Amhara and the Tigray regions, where Amharic and the Tigrinya are used for church services. Prime Minister Abiy has also remarked about the decision taken last year by Tigray region members of the church to distance themselves from the Holy Synod in Addis Ababa and establish the Tigrayan Orthodox Church Patriarchate over the later silence of the killing of priests and the destruction of churches in the Tigray war. He said that no one had objected the decision. So he's blaming the Orthodox Church for the crime committed in the Tigray war, especially the killing of priests. So the Prime Minister's remark, however, may not sit well with Holy Synod after on Sunday, 29 January, His Holiness Abune Matthias I, Patriarch of Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the principal Holy Synod urged the government and the wider population to help with ensuring respect to the dogma and canon of the historic Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and pleaded for caution and protection by security forces to avoid the blood of innocent Christians from being spilled. In what seems to be the exact opposite of that, Prime Minister Abiy said, there is no group that we either support or oppose. Both groups are orthodox and both have demands and their own truths. He warned that the consequences can be disastrous for both groups and for the country at large if they fail to resolve the issue with discussion and in a calm spirit, adding that there are forces who want to intervene and use the agenda for their own interest. He also warned his cabinet members not to intervene in any way. The video Prime Minister's denial of government intervention was released a few hours after the Ethiopian Citizens for Social Justice, or IZEMA, party issued a statement in which it accused the government of interference in the matter and expressed concerns by measures that security forces are taking. Several interventions by the government has been noted, the party said, without revealing the nature of the intervention, and called on the government to refrain from its acts. The party also required the government to take measures against individuals and groups with political agenda who want to intervene in the internal issues of the church. So that is from Addis Standard. And so the government, that is Abiy Ahmed ending his silence on the issue. And now the establishment accusing the government interfering, arresting the senior priest, and ending the protection for establishment, removing the security personnel, and protecting the new synod led by Abunos Sauros, the 25 or 26 bishops. So they are getting support. The new bishops also getting support from the community and from Orthodox religion followers wherever they go to introduce themselves to the community. So it's a very tough conflict, very tough conflict. If it's not managed well, it could create crisis, major crisis. Ethiopia has so many crises, and the crisis over crisis. So this is the prime minister is try to manage it, but in a different way. And first by, keeping himself out of the situation. Now by expressing his stand. Now he's blamed. He's blamed by Washington D.C. protesters and others, like he's interfering. Let's listen to their protests. Okay, let's listen what they're saying. These D.C. protesters, and I will continue with news update in reading. Then I have also other videos at the end. Let's listen. This is in Amharic. That is against his warning of other cabinet ministers not to interfere, and he's interfering. That's they are accusing him. And he's saying the prime minister's statement and the speech is a poison one. It's not a medicine. It's a poison one for the situation. He says it's not the business of the government. It's the business of the church.
Working for a Major League Baseball team. I did that.
Not just any team, but Sene's partners.
What the Prime Minister said is accommodate the followers' demand. Now they are against that. It's the church who can decide that. It's not the Prime Minister teaching or preaching of the religions in America, in Oromo, Somalia, or Tigray, or anything. That's the decision. In general, what they say is hands off the church. Stay away, Mr. Prime Minister. That's what they are saying.
ዛሬ ደብዳቤ ለማስገባት የተዘጋጀ ሰልፍ ነው ዓለም አቀፋዊ ሰልፍ ለማለ ዋይት ሃውስ ላይ ሁላችሁም ተዘጋጅታችሁ እንድትመጡ እኔም የራሴን መልእክት እናገረው ዶክተር አብይ ከመጡ ቤተክርስቲያን ካገኘችው ይልቅ ያጣችው ይበልጣል። ከ50 በላይ ቤተክርስቲያን ተቃጥለዋል። ንብረቷን አጥታለች። ምዕመናን ተገለዋል። ካህናት ታርደዋል።
So they just he's saying that the church lost under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed leadership instead of gaining. So he's saying 50 churches burned down under his leadership, lost properties, and the killing of priests and followers under his leadership. And he's also announcing, as I said before, to his group and other organizers call for another demonstration on coming Sunday, global one. So they will stage in front of the White House and other locations in the United States and around the world.
ወንድሞቻችን እዚህ ጋር የሚያውቁን ሰዎች ፍሪ ትግራይ ብለዋል። እውነት ይሄ የትግራይን ህዝብ የሚወክል ነው ወይ? አይደለም 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 አይደለም። አሁንም ጳጳሳት ብለው የሾሙት
Okay, they are complaining. There is another protest, probably organized by Tigrayans. You can hear the voice and this group also chanting free Tigray and justice. We demand justice. We demand action. They are saying different slogans, but the camera is focused on this group. But you can hear the background. The Tigrayans also came out and demanding justice for the victims of the war in the last 2 years. Okay, that's a taste. That's a taste of. So that is a taste of Washington D.C. Protest called by Orthodox church leaders and other organizations. This is a very strong protest against the Prime Minister's stand, against the Prime Minister's statement, and against those establishing the new synod or the new bishops, the 26. It's not a simple matter. Always the establishment fight back. That's why you can see they fight back. They don't want change. And they don't want to accommodate. They don't want to settle the issues through discussion. This is a church business. Nobody has a power to intervene. That's their claim. And we'll see. We'll follow it. But it's a very tense situation, very serious situation. And we'll see. And the other group also, maybe they came out to challenge this group, the Tigrayans, and also demand justice for the war victims. They are calling for action. Yes, concerned citizens, media also support them. We need justice. We need justice. And the international experts should be allowed to investigate that war crime. And the Prime Minister is in Somalia. Last time he was in Sudan. I think he's also run to Somalia. I have also a statement on that one and other bilateral agreement. Actually, trilateral agreement. Isaias Afwerki is missing in that agreement, but I don't know why. Here we go. This is another crisis in Ethiopia. Gunmen kill Chinese national in Oromia. Embassy advised travel caution. A Chinese citizen was shot and killed by unidentified gunmen in Garba Guracha town in North Shoa zone of Oromia region. Media reports attributed a statement from the Chinese embassy in Addis Ababa that 9 Chinese nationals were attacked by gunmen in Garba Guracha, a town located some 160 kilometers from the capital Addis Ababa. The attack happened on Monday evening when the 9 Chinese citizens came under armed attack in Garba Guracha, a town in north part of Oromia. One was shot dead. The Chinese embassy in Ethiopia said in a statement on Tuesday, giving no further information about the incident and the perpetrators. The embassy cautioned Chinese nationals that border areas between Oromia and other regions have been frequent pernicious cases of armed attacks, kidnappings, and robberies, making security risks high, and called on Chinese citizens and institutions in Ethiopia to be vigilant, avoid negligence, build a strong security awareness, stay away from high-risk areas, and not to travel or pass through the high-risk areas. If you are already in a high-risk area, you should evacuate to a safe area immediately. Attempts by Addis Standard to reach spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, the Oromia Police Commissioner, and the Garba Guracha Police Commander for comment were unsuccessful. On 22nd October last year, the North Shoa Salale Diocese of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church said armed militants killed a diakon and kidnapped 11 priests, including a parish administrator in Garba Guracha town. On January 26, about 20 workers of Dangote cement factory located in Ada Berga district in West Shoa zone of Oromia region were kidnapped by unidentified gunmen while they were on duty to renovate a broken water pipe station located some 25 kilometers away from Mugar town, where the company obtained water for its production. I also reported on this one last time, but we have a good news on this one. They were later released on Monday, 30 January, after paying a ransom ranging from 50,000 to 100,000 birr each on their own, a source close to the matter told Addis Standard on condition of anonymity. So they are released, even though they have to pay ransom. That's a tragedy under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. While northern Ethiopia has seen improvement in peace after 2 years of brutal war, following a peace deal signed between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray authorities, brutal fighting and suffering of civilians has continued in the wider part of Oromia, the largest and most populous region of Ethiopia. The rebel Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, irregular militants from neighboring Amara region called Fano, and the government were seen blaming each other for the attacks of civilians in Oromia region. So the situation in Oromia region is a very tough one, and the cross-border attack by Amara militia and the Fano militia, and also the genocide, the ongoing genocide in Wollo by Amara regional government in coordination with those militias. It's a very tough one. They are crying for help, and the ongoing war in Oromia, is a very tough one. And the MEPs, 80 of them, I reported last time, they asked the Prime Minister and the leader of the Ethiopian Parliament and the Oromia region to stop the war and negotiate with OLA, settle the issue on the table. But the Prime Minister is jumping around to get maybe weapons, we don't know. Last time on Sudan, now Somalia. So he's going around and he's showing off his military might. I showed you last time. So he's doing everything to continue the war. But he was asked by Oromo Federalist Congress and those parliament members to end this war, but he's refused. He refused, and the Oromia regional government also refused to settle the issue. They want to destroy the living situation of the people in the name of eliminating OLA or Onek Shene, as they call it. So that's a tough one, and we call upon the Prime Minister, Oromia regional government, and other prosperity officials, settle this issue as you settled the Tigray problem. Don't settle after millions of people died. So that's our message. Instead of going around and getting weapons. So this one is Somalia police detain Carlson TV journalist, accuse him of spreading false propaganda following ban on 15 foreign media outlets. Prosperity Party hate media, whether in Somalia or Addis Ababa or in Tigray, they hate media. They want to just use government-controlled media and few government-friendly medias. So intimidation, threat against journalists, and dragging journalists into the court system is a Prime Minister agenda. So now the Somalia region is doing the same thing. Let me read. The Somalia Regional Police arrested journalist Muhyiddin Muhammad Ali, who works for Carlson TV, a day after a decision by the Regional Communication Bureau to take 15 foreign media outlets broadcasting in the region off air, accusing reporters of the outlets based in the region of working without license. That's the excuse. Carlson TV is one of the 15 foreign media outlets banned from operating in the region. Muhyiddin's close friend Abdurrahman Mohammed told Addis Standard that Muhyiddin received a call from the police and asked to present himself to police station on 29 January, after which he was detained. According to Abdurrahman, the 15 suspended media outlets were preparing to give official press release about the ban, and Muhyiddin was the coordinator of the press release, which Abdurrahman claimed to be the reason of his friend's arrest. Another friend of Muhyiddin, who asked to remain anonymous, said prior to his arrest, Muhyiddin has received calls from police officers who warned him about his activities on social media in critics of the regional ruling party. Yet they hate criticism. After 2 days of detention at the Fafan Zone police station, Muhyiddin was brought to court on 31st January or 31 on charge of spreading false propaganda using social media. His case has been adjourned for 7 February. On 28 January, Somalia Regional State Communication Bureau has banned 15 foreign media outlets, including the BBC and the VOA Somali services, of working without licenses. Some region journalist association, however, said the regional government played a vital role in banning these media outlets using the license issue as a pretext. Attempts by Addis Standard to get comments on the detention of Muhaddin Mohammed were unsuccessful. So they just use any excuse to silence uh, media and journalists. This has been a practice under the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed since 2018. First, he was a messiah, then later on he changed into an evil empire. This is about four leaders, four presidents, no, one prime minister, meeting in Somalia to organize their force against Al-Shabab. Let me read. Presidents, we will jointly help Somalia to destroy Al-Shabab. This is Garowe Online, credit for Garowe Online. Somalia, Al-Shabab militants may have a difficult time restoring their territories in central and southern regional of Somalia following Wednesday's agreement involving the Horn of Africa nation and the leaders of frontline countries, key among them Ethiopia, Kenya, and Djibouti, which hosts U.S. Africa Command. Wednesday's summit of the frontline nations comes at the time of Somalia is leading sustained operations across the country, leading to the liberation of several strategic towns. In the process, authorities in Somalia said over 500 Al-Shabaab militants have been killed within the period of 6 months. The joint statement released by the team highlighted the commitment of the regional states to help the country defeat Al-Shabaab within the shortest period possible. Somalia believes the militants can be overpowered within the next 24 months should the frontline countries fully immerse themselves in the fight. We agreed to make the final push for joint operations in the areas that remain under the terrorists to completely liberate the whole of Somalia from Al-Shabaab, the statement read. The leadership asked international partners to help stabilize areas that have been liberated by the army. This will facilitate the federal government to enhance its service delivery and extend its authority, the statement read. They also commended the advancement made on developing capabilities in managing weapons and ammunition regime, endorsing Somalia's quest to completely lift the arms embargo by the end of 2023. We also emphasize the importance of establishing a joint border security mechanism that intends to eliminate cross-border terrorism activities and ensures legal passage of trade and movement, they said. Present were the host President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, Ismail Omar Guelleh, Djibouti, William Ruto, Kenya, and Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who jointly agreed to search and destroy Al-Shabaab militants from their hideouts. While Ethiopia has managed to block the militants from crossing over, Kenya has borne the brunt of the group's activities across the border. The frontline states endorsed Somalia's quest to completely lift the arms embargo by the end of 2023, besides welcoming a request by Somalia to obtain both lethal and non-lethal support to equip the newly generated SNA force units and to enhance capabilities of current SNA units. Somalia is also sending troops abroad for advanced training, a move geared toward preparing them for security responsibilities after the exit of the peacekeeping mission in the country. Already 6,000 soldiers have been dispatched to Eritrea and Uganda for the training, and another group will be going to Ethiopia and Egypt, a senior advisor said. So it's a very coordinated effort against Al-Shabab, also agreement to control cross-border activities. So that's why Prime Minister just after a day in Sudan, he ran to Somalia. That's for his benefit. His main headache is OLA. He's trying to secure the border, get some help from Sudan and Somalia. So he don't want to settle the issue with oil. So instead, he want to seal the border, attack and destroy oil. That's his target. And Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki or his representatives are missing. We don't know why. You know. Okay, here, this one is sanctioning evasion network supporting Russia's military-industrial complex. The war in Ukraine, putting maximum pressure on Russia and those dealing with Russia, or companies, oligarchs supporting the war, getting punished by the United States and the European countries. Let me read. Multiple sanctions. The United States, in coordination with our allies and partners, will continue to fully enforce our sanctions against Russia's war machine and those that support its effort. These actions will decrease Russia's ability to wage war and weaken its military-industrial complex. Today, the Department of the Treasury is designating 22 persons across multiple jurisdictions who are connected to a sanction evasion network supporting Russia's defense sector, including prominent gray arms dealer Igor Vladimirovich Zimonokov. Today's action taken pursuant to Executive Order 14024 are another example of our determination to crack down on sanctions evasion efforts. It has become increasingly difficult for Russia's military-industrial complex to resupply the Kremlin's war machine, forcing it to rely on nefarious suppliers such as Iran and the DPRK. By trying to use proxies to circumvent US sanctions, Russia demonstrates that our sanctions are having impact. Our work will continue. Today's action was also taken as part of the US commitment to Russia's elites, proxies, and oligarchs repo task force, a multilateral effort to identify and seize assets of Russian proxies around the world. The repo task force aims to maximize the effects of multilateral sanctions, ensuring that Russia is unable to easily evade the consequences wrought by its destructive and needless war against Ukraine. For more information on today's action, See the Department of the Treasury's press release. The last one for today's reading. Opening of the U.S. Embassy in Honiara, Solomon Islands. Never heard of Honiara. I heard Solomon Island. Okay. Press statement, Anthony J. Blinken. Today, we are opening the U.S. Embassy in Honiara, Solomon Island, less than 1 year after we announced our intent to open it. Doing so symbolizes a renewal of our relationship and underlines the strength of our commitment to our bilateral relations, the people of Solomon Islands, and our partnership in the Indo-Pacific region. We value our shared history and sacrifice with Solomon Islands and look forward to continuing to strengthen our partnership in a range of areas, including economic development, combating the COVID-19 pandemic, and addressing the challenges of climate change. The opening of the embassy builds on our efforts not only to place more diplomatic personnel throughout the region, but also to engage further with our Pacific neighbors, connect United States programs and resources with needs on the ground, and build people-to-people ties. The department informed the government of Solomon Islands that the opening of the embassy became official as of January 27, 2023, and we thanked them for their support to advance our bilateral relationship in this way. Russell Comoho will continue to serve as U.S. Charge d'Affaires ad interim at the new U.S. Embassy Honiara. Mr. Comoho arrived in Solomon Islands in October 2021. So that's about U.S. new embassy in Solomon Island in Honiara. Thank you again for sharing your time. Let's continue listening to few videos I shared from different medias for today's update and finish today's presentation. The first one, I think, is talking about Ethio-Sudan issues and the relation. Let's listen. Thank you.
Years of tensions. This meeting between Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Sudan's de facto head of state Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has offered political groups some hope. A potential sign that Ethiopia may get on board with Sudan's political aspirations and the chance of an alternative partner in mediation talks after pro-democracy groups rejected an offer from Egypt.
The visitors resulted in positive outputs. Most of the political powers that rejected the Egyptian initiative has agreed upon the Ethiopian Prime Minister's suggestion for a Sudanese solution without intervention. The visit is part of the regional competition between Ethiopia and Egypt in the wake of solving the Sudanese political crisis.
Attempting to strengthen bilateral relations between Sudan and Ethiopia has been a long road. The border between the two nations is disputed, not to mention an ongoing refugee crisis and controversy over the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia have been locked in a long-running dispute over this hydropower dam on the River Nile. While it's built on a stretch of water running through Ethiopia, both Sudan and Egypt fear the flow they receive downstream will be reduced, claiming it could affect both irrigation projects and drinking water supplies.
Following Abiy Ahmed's visit, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said Khartoum is now aligned and in agreement with Ethiopia's hydropower plans. Analysts say cooperation on both that and other issues are needed to ensure future prosperity.
Both Ethiopia and Sudan have been through complicated political situations. Aside from common interests like the borders, refugees, and the dam issues, the stability of one country will impact the other.
Ahmed's visit has prompted positivity from pro-democracy groups too. Just days after discussions took place, once warring political factions in Sudan agree a form of rapprochement has been reached, and with further talks in Ethiopia in the pipeline, activists say they are hopeful a long-term political resolution may at some point be found. Naba Muhiddin, SABC News, Khartoum, Sudan.
Roofers are furious about this new product that's going viral. Replace your whole roof in as little as 8 hours? And right now, we're looking for...
It was dubbed Walkout Wednesday, and walkout they did. Britain has been brought to a standstill, as up to 500,000 teachers, civil servants and train drivers went on strike in the largest industrial action seen for a decade. They're demanding pay rises and better working conditions.
We do need to be paid more, but I think education in general, we just need more money, more staff, more competition in teaching as well, so a head teacher has choice to choose between 20 teachers rather than just 2, so that our children get a higher quality education. I think we just need more.
It's just a political choice, really, because I know there's money. There's money in this country. It's one of the richest countries in Europe. It's just that state school students are not valued enough to have more money spent on their education.
Unions are threatening more disruption as the government digs its heels in over pay demands. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak condemned the action, which forced millions of children to miss school. His government has taken a hard line against the unions, arguing that giving in to demands for large wage hikes would further fuel Britain's inflation problem.
In his meeting with the Palestinian president, the US Secretary of State sticks with the line that Washington remains committed to a Palestinian state alongside Israel. But Antony Blinken knows it's a diminishing prospect.
We have been clear and consistent. Neither side should take any unilateral actions that right now potentially would add fuel to a fire, and over the medium to long term would make the prospects of achieving 2 states even more distant than they currently are.
So far, 35 Palestinians have been killed this year in confrontations with Israeli security forces. Benjamin Netanyahu returned to power in December and appointed far-right politicians and religious nationalists in senior cabinet posts. One of them, National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, has promised to give more gun permits to Israeli citizens and expand illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank.
I think there's a very high risk of escalation. This new Israeli government is very fascist, it's far right, it's very intent on committing and inflicting violence upon Palestinians, and in fact, their political mandates were premised on that. So I think in the weeks and the months to come, we're going to see a crueler regime of occupation inflicted upon the Palestinian people.
Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority are reliant on international pressure to make sure Israel honours its commitments when it comes to the occupation of East Jerusalem and the West Bank.
We want a complete cessation of all unilateral Israeli actions that undermine all signed agreements. It is the main way back to re-engage politically and end the occupation.
The heads of the Jordanian and Egyptian intelligence agencies sat down with Abbas ahead of his meeting with Blinken, an indication of the concern in the region about the security situation here. It's understood they asked the Palestinian president to adopt a flexible position with the Americans. The Palestinian Authority wasn't expecting much from Antony Blinken's visit, certainly not a commitment to re-engage on a peace process with Israel. The US is concentrated on the war in Ukraine, threats from Iran, and its relationship with China. There's certainly no evidence of any real pressure to stop a slide into a wider conflict here. The Palestinians are on their own.
Yeah.
Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera, Ramallah.
Yes, they have been on their own for many generations, and they are losing their land and their houses from time to time, and losing their life. So I hope the suggested two-state solution will come to being very, very quickly, so they have, the country to claim. And nobody's talking 1967 border. That is an outdated issue for now. Just to secure the current border is very difficult between Israel and the Palestinians. If they don't secure this one, they're gonna continue losing more and more lives and more land. Okay. Let me conclude by saying the crisis in the Orthodox Church in Ethiopia is a very, very explosive issue, very serious crisis, and it should be settled down very quickly, through negotiation or whatever solution. If not, this can create is an earthquake in that country. Very dangerous for followers and possibly for prime minister power. Very serious one. So we will see. We will watch it, how they're going to resolve it. Now we have more protests at home and around the world, more money pouring into the cause and lobbying for politicians and other religious institutions. It's going to continue, and we'll see. And the prime minister is, instead of going around and signing a deal about cross-border, he should sit down and settle the, the bloodshed happening in Oromia, instead of, showing off his force and advising Sudanese to settle their own issue internally. He should sit down. He should listen to the parliament members and the political leaders. Must settle the issue at home, especially the one we are having in Oromia, the bloody war. This is a very serious one. It can destabilize the country. It's not like a Tigray war. Tigray war might take time to come all over to the capital city, but this is around the capital city. So I know the prime minister is not listening to anyone. He just listened after so many people died, or he may be waiting for external pressure from US and the European Union and the United Nations or African Union. He shouldn't. He should settle. He should listen to the people and settle this war. And the Wollo people, the Wollo Oromos are, crying for urgent help since the devastation, the burning of their properties by Amhara militia and the Fano militia in coordination with the regional authority. They have no help from Oromia region. They have no help from federal government. They have been in a very bad shape since Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came to power. Never been attacked like this. So they are displaced in thousands. They are died and they lost property. So the survivors are asking for our help. So please support them. Be the voice for them. So that's all I'm going to say for today. I'll be back with other news and update. Thank you for today and be safe, everyone.